Simon Bamford on the Fishbowl. Welcome.
I'm swimming. There's so much water in here, it's really difficult, you know?
Yes. It's a nice big bowl.
It is a big fish bowl, but you promised me it would be filled with gin. And it's not, and I keep swallowing kind of fish droppings as well. It's not nice.
Well, thank you for swimming in the non-gin filled fishbowl with me. It is a pleasure having you on this show. I'm a huge fan of your work. The first thing I'd like to ask you is, what got you interested in film?
The flippant answer would be going to the cinema. But, oh heavens, just the same as everybody else, really. You kind of you go to the cinema and you just see this magic created, and I was kind of born in the days before CGI, so I think as an audience we kind of invested so much more because you have to invest your imagination a little bit, even in the really kind of crummy special effects. Oh, sorry, there's wine relaxing. So even in the in the kind of seedy special effects laden films that I used to see as a kid, you still kind of got lost in them, and they're just a fantastic way of escaping the kind of the boring real world and going to somewhere. It's just a wonderful method of telling a story.
I definitely agree. I was actually talking with Nicholas last week and had him on the show, and I'm in contact with Barbie to get her on the show as well. And all I kind of have to do now is get Doug Bradley and Clive Barker on the show, and I'll be set. But you know, I have to agree with you there, because I'm an '80s kid that grew up in the '90s, and you know, Jurassic Park was basically like the pivotal movie that introduced like what we can really do with CG versus like minor effects. But I was always a fan of the practical aspect. Like I now that we have CG, I feel that it's definitely necessary for certain aspects, but it's kind of like, at least in my opinion, it's kind of like, you know, the job of like the editor. It's to make you think that it's not even there.
Exactly that. I think it's allowed us to go to places we could have never have gone to before, and has allowed projects to be made that really were not possible before. One of the things that I'd love to see now that CG is around is Clive's Abarat, or any of Clive's early works, the kind of Weave World. They were such epic landscapes, and they were impossible really without CG. But I'd love to see some of that stuff now on the big screen.
Absolutely. I actually went to school for screenwriting here in Pittsburgh, and I just have to say that you know, there's a like 4 or 5 like major writers, directors, and screenwriters that really had like an influence on me, and Clive Barker was one of like the pivotal filmmakers and authors that has just like inspired so much with my own writing. And I was talking with Nicholas about it, and one of the like I really want to adapt. I want to like readapt Rawhead Rex, and I also really want to adapt the Scarlet Gospels, because I feel that novel, if that was adapted for the screen, would be the perfect way to bring back Hellraiser and, you know, the character of Harry Dubois from Lord of Illusions, and I feel it would just be the perfect way to bring back Hellraiser into this generation, because the source material is all there,
It
and
is, and it's again with Clive's imagination. It's such an epic scale. It's not kind of bringing back Hellraiser. It's kind of blowing Hellraiser out of the water and kind of exploding that world onto this vast landscape on this vast canvas. His writing of the Seven Circles of Hell, and it would be amazing to see that. That's a great one. That's a great one to do. But like you say, it would bring together different generations of horror fans onto the same page, which would be an awesome thing to see happening.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I really hope that I can do it. I'm a big H.P. Lovecraft fan also, and I've been adapting his stuff like crazy lately, and I've submitted some of my adaptations to a few screenwriting competitions, and I have a few months before I hear back, but I got like a really, really good review on one of them, so we'll see.
Lovecraft again is just an awesome writer, isn't he? His imagination is just incredible. I asked Clive if I could adapt one of his books of blood into a screen, and his advice, he allowed me to do it, but I was rubbish at screenwriting, so it never really happened. But I did try, but his advice was kind of to think bigger and to go further than you think is possible. Always kind of, I suppose the horrible analogy is you push the boundaries, you kind of push the envelope, you go further than anybody's expecting. You have to surprise people these days, and that becomes harder and harder because we're not easily surprisable.
That's the truth. I mean, it really is. I mean, audiences' perception on what horror is or what is entertaining as a movie in general has shifted so much since, when I was growing up in the 90s and even the early 2000s, because, for a period of time, really in I want to say the mid 2000s to the early 2010s, I feel like horror just took a nosedive downhill, and people didn't really know what we wanted to see on the screen, and we got movies like Paranormal Activity where you don't even see anything, and it's all tricks, and it's how is that entertaining? What happened to the times of movie monsters and scaring the shit out of people because
I think the big secret is the story. The story has to be entertaining. It has to be well crafted, because that's the end of the day. You're taking somebody on a journey, and you're starting with a life and a world that everybody understands and knows, and then gradually taking them to a place which we all know doesn't really exist, or hopefully we'll never see anyway, and is inhabited by creatures and people that don't exist, or hopefully we'll never meet anyway. And to do that, you need a real craft of storytelling, and you need to be able to pique people's kind of interests and imaginations as you go down that path. I mean, it amazes me, some of the films that you can see, and you think, and you completely go with the story, and you completely believe the story. And then you think back afterwards and think, that was ridiculous that they asked me to believe that. But you completely do. And then vice versa, you'll see a badly constructed film and you'll think, that's just completely unbelievable. And it's just as unbelievable as the well-structured film. It's just something doesn't quite work, doesn't quite click. There's so many aspects with film. It's not just the writing. It's Clive once said to me, it was like a script was like an invitation to a dance. It wasn't the dance itself. And at that dance were kind of many people. And the dance was only successful if everybody's kind of dancing to the same tune and working to the same rhythms and creating and with the same vision, basically, which is where the kind of the director kind of brings it all together and the producers.
I definitely agree. And one of the things, I'll go further with that. I think one of the things that made like the greatest era of horror and sci-fi so entertaining was the fact that you were seeing, an overall story arc evolve with all the sequels that followed with, Jason, Freddy, Chucky, Leatherface, Hellraiser. There was, with the sequels, there was an ever evolving story that goes deeper into who those characters are. And even though, you never hear Jason or Michael Myers speak, the overall story of who those characters are and what they're doing, it's like the kills and the gore were extra. You were invested in the monstrous characters of these serial killers or larger than life movie monsters that made them so entertaining and allowed as many sequels to follow.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's an interesting concept, isn't it? There's no real answer. There's no real solution to making. You can't get a group. You can get the best cast in the world and the best writers, but it's always a lucky escape. It's always a lucky chance as to whether a film works or not. And so many don't. So many never see the light of day. So many good films never see the light of day. So yeah, you just kind of live in hope, and every project you work on is going to be successful. We were really spoiled on Hellraiser because for most of us, including the crew, it was our first film, and to kind of hit the jackpot with your first film rather spoils you because you assume that this happens with all films that you make, and of course it doesn't, and it didn't. So it was a big learning curve after the Hellraisers and the Nightbreed to kind of work on projects that never really saw the light of day.
So, how did the whole relationship with Clive Barker come about?
I was at drama school in London, and we were doing a production of King Lear, and I was playing the Fool. And Clive lived nearby. He was a starving writer. He'd recently moved from Liverpool with some friends, including Doug Bradley, and had started up a fringe theatre company with Oliver Parker, who's also in Hellraiser and has done a lot of films in his own right now. And Clive liked what I was doing in King Lear and asked to meet me afterwards and invited me to join the Dog Company, which was this fringe theatre company, when I graduated, which I did. And it was interesting. Doug's often said that Clive keeps these images in his head, and they're stuck there, and then you see them coming out in different variations and different versions. And the fact that he saw me in The Fool, and I was like King Lear's sidekick in The Fool in King Lear, and looking at Nightbreed, that's exactly the same relationship I have with Doug in Nightbreed, is that he's a kind of King Lear type character whose world is crumbling and falling to bits, and I'm kind of around him, but disappear in the end because I can't help. We also did a production of, I think, Paradise Street, which was one of Clive's plays in London and on tour. And again, very similar, a partnership between Doug and myself of a kind of strong tyrant and an innocent fool. So yeah, I keep kind of coming back to that. How Butterball got in there, I don't know. I mean, we disbanded the Dog Company after a couple of years because we weren't making, it was fringe, we weren't making any money. And about that time, Clive was writing, got a publishing deal with the Books of Blood. So he had these short stories being published, which was exciting to see him kind of beginning to take off. And then I lost contact with him for a couple of years, and I just rang him out the blue to see how he was and what he was up to. And it was just the perfect timing is that he was casting, or he was in early pre-production for Hellraiser, and he just offered me the role. So I was just kind of the perfect phone call, really, at the perfect time. As often these things are, you can audition for your best audition in the world, but so often, and you hear the story again and again, so often it's you're in the right place at the right time, or you made the right phone call at the right time. And of course you can't make that happen.
Right, right. So how long was the whole makeup process for Butterball?
Butterball was quite a straightforward one. Once we'd had the life casts done, which was quite an unpleasant experience, where they kind of encase your head in gypsum, I think. Is it called gypsum? Basically plaster of Paris, bandages, everything but the two holes of your nose is completely covered, and then from that they make a negative cast of your head, and from the negative cast of your head they make a positive cast of your head. And the positive cast of the head is the thing that they then build, that they design the makeup on. But Butterball was one mask. So my journey in the morning was, apart from getting up at ridiculous silly o'clock, was having a skull cap put on so that it didn't tear my hair out, having a lot of Vaseline put all over my head, and having my mouth around my mouth made up with black makeup, so if you saw through the mouth of Butterball, you wouldn't actually see me inside of it. And then it was kind of getting into the costume, which was kind of a fiberglass moulded torso, in which I was inside, with the kind of the leather costume on around that, and then my arms went through and they kind of laced me into that. And then sitting around for hours and hours and hours before the horrible, dreaded moment of them putting the head on. The head was 2 to 3 inches thick of foam latex. It had no eye holes in it, no nose holes in it, and no ear holes in it, because his ears were cut off, his eyes were sewn up, and he didn't have a nose. So it took 3 of them. It was skin tight inside of it. So it took 3 of them to pull it down onto my head. Halfway down, I always thought if it got stuck, that would be it. I'd suffocate, and that would be the end of me. But it never did. And then eventually it would go into place, and they kind of glue the edges down onto my own face with the idea that it would move with my face, but it didn't, because it was too big and too thick. I could really move my head face in there, and there was no sign of anything happening on the outside of it because it was such thick latex. And then I was entombed in my dark, silent grave. It was a horrible place to be, and we were, because it's super glued with surgical super glue. You're in there from 6, 7 in the morning until sometimes 6, 7 at night, in this silent, black place where you couldn't read, you couldn't talk. And then the final bit before we went on to set was they'd made a denture mould of my teeth, and they had and nicks, and then they super glued or denture fixed these disgusting teeth onto my own teeth, and then dipped my fingers in blood, and that was it. I was ready to rock and roll.
Awesome. Now, your character originally had lines, right?
That's right, yeah. In the original script, the female Cenobite and I had a kind of an equal amount of dialogue between us. But when we got to I think it was probably the 2nd or 3rd day's shooting, and we got to the scene with my lines, and I'd realised all my lines were plosives, which means they got P's and B's in them, so it was perhaps we prefer you and impossible, lines like that. And you can't say those lines if you can't put your lips together. And because of the teeth, I couldn't actually. You can't say that. You're horrible. Not exactly very scary or sinister. So, and I tried to tell them, because of course I couldn't speak either. So we got to the lines, and I was saying, I can't do this line because I can't put my lips together. What? I can't stay alive. My lips together. It was so frustrating. Eventually they worked out what I was saying, and then they had a discussion about whether they could go into ADR and dub my lines in afterwards. But then they just, because it was a very low budget movie to start with, they decided there wasn't the budget to do that. So that was the day that all my lines were given to the female Son of Ice, and all my lines were taken, and I was suddenly mute, which was a very, very depressing day. And they never. I'm getting my own back now. And of course, then by the time obviously Hellraiser 2 came along, and he was known as the mute, so they didn't give me any lines for that. And the makeup was pretty similar anyway. And then Nightbreed came along, and he did give me a few tiny lines, but he liked the idea of me being mute by then. So I was making a career for myself as a non-speaking featured artist. But I am making up for it now. I've just been filming something here in the UK, which was basically 35-page monologue of my character speaking. Again, 3 hours in makeup every morning, which was okay. So yeah, I am actually talking a lot now, although not in a way that you would expect. That's all I can really say.
Awesome. Well, I have to say that, I don't think any other author or filmmaker has really brought, at least in my mind, and I'm sure in a lot of other people's minds, what, like, the idea of hell would look like.
Uh-huh.
And the visuals in Hellraiser, both 1 and 2, and just the whole franchise really is really, really imaginative. And one of the reasons I like Clive Barker so much in his work is that he has a very particular way of drawing the audience in, and it's said in the dialogue in Hellraiser, the famous line, "Demons to some, angels to others,"
Uh-huh.
and it's like, the very concept that, because as far as hell was depicted up until that point, it was always depicted as a very sinister place. And the very fact that Clive Barker brought this whole new concept of, there's some people that enjoy the pain and enjoy the terror, so, yeah.
He spent a lot of time when he was researching it going to kind of sadomasochist clubs and going to kind of dark places that I don't think he would have ever dreamt of going before. And you're right, he has a really clever way of drawing people in, whereas most of the movies at the time were dealing with parties of teenage kids having a good time, and they're drawing the audience in by kind of us thinking, oh, I'd like to be at that party, I'd like to be with them kids, I kind of associate with those. Clive did completely opposite. He had a family that were going through their own personal hell before even the film had started. So you had a dysfunctional husband and wife who didn't really like each other, a stepdaughter who loathed her stepmother. And it was a kind of, but again, it draws you in because it's a kind of life which, again, we all associate with and we all understand. And so we all empathize with those characters and we're drawn in that way. But it's not a way I don't think any other horror film had used at the time. Maybe a little bit The Shining, but I can't remember The Shining well enough at the early scenes, but I think they were quite a happy family to start with. It was as the film went on that they just started to disintegrate. But again, his visions of hell, up until that point, really, everybody's visions of hell were from kind of 1500s paintings. Maybe some Hieronymus Bosch art. I know Clive had a lot of that around. But we had this kind of church vision of hell, which was very, very dated, and he completely updates that whole thing, and like you say, brings in the whole idea that some people, the whole idea of hell itself is that some people must love that pain, and of course some people in this world get pleasure from pain. He's a very clever man. He's a very, very clever man. And he's always surrounded himself with a lot of classical art and writings. So he's drawing from a place he kind of knows and understands that other people have visited before, and then puts his own personal twists on that. And it's just so entertaining in the doing so.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I also have to say that, up until that point, I don't think I remember hearing like a score to a horror film as beautiful as Christopher Young's score for the Hellraiser movies. And it's actually because of Hellraiser that I follow Christopher Young's work in all the various films that he's worked on. And it's like you really can't have Hellraiser without the score.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to meet Christopher Young at Atlantic City at a convention a couple of years ago, and it was fascinating listening to him talking about it. But he gets it absolutely perfectly right, which is again I think is wonderful for Christopher Young. But it's one of the amazing things that Clive does, is that he explains everything and he encourages everybody so well that they know exactly what is expected of them. And it's a waltz. The score for Hellraiser is a waltz, and it's which is perfect because it's a love story. It's a twisted love story, but it's a love story. So, and you listen to the kind of music, and it's da 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 da. It's just this waltz going on, and then the music box as well. And I saw something about Christopher Figg, the producer, and Clive, and Chris Young. The first time that they managed to put the score with the film, and that was the moment that they realised they got a hit on their hands. Not until that moment, but when it matched so well and was so perfectly in tune with the vision of the story, they knew then that it was going to really, really work. And scores do that, don't they? I'm going to a screening in a few weeks' time of something I worked on, and I can't wait to see what the score's like, because it's going to make or break it, I think. So it's very exciting. I love the score writing is amazing, and it's so clever, because normally the idea I talk to friends who write for film, and they say, oh yeah, normally people, again, like editing, they shouldn't be aware of the music at all. It should influence the mood and the feeling of the film, but you shouldn't be aware of it. It should be completely invisible. But then with something like Hellraiser, when you can do that all the way through, but then also you have these wonderful grand-guignol moments of this orchestra just kind of beating their life out of themselves, and it's fantastic, and it's inspirational. It's the kind of Star Wars, John Williams kind of inspiration that you get from movie scores. Wonderful stuff. No, I agree. I'm a huge fan, and Chris Young is such a lovely man too. He spends a lot of his time working for free, encouraging new writing in music, and I think he has a school that he kind of works with young talent coming up and helps them. He's an absolutely fantastic man.
That's another person I actually have to get on my show.
You really should.
I'm a huge music fan, from all different eras, everything from classical to blues, to classic rock, to punk, to grunge, to everything that's going on today. I'm a huge music fan, and I actually interview musicians as well. And I would just love to interview Christopher Young and pick his mind and see where he was, just where his mind was when he was writing some of his most iconic scores.
Oh yes, yeah. I would recommend that. He's an inspirational man. If you could get Clive and Chris Young together, that would be perfect.
Yeah, that's something I got to work on. And it's also, just the chime that plays.
Yes.
When
We,
something's going to happen with the box.
yeah,
That
absolutely.
it's
Just the kind of the little puzzle box kind of chime. Yeah, it just works perfectly, and it's so simple and it's so innocent, and yet it's so sinister, and you just know that something bad is gonna happen. It's perfect. There must have been. I'm racking my brains. I'm sure that technique of using a music box had been used before in horror, but it's very clever and it's lovely. I mean, they use it again, and I remember when the Harry Potter score was first released, and again it was used. It started with this kind of music box chiming going on, and it just kind of sends shivers up your spine.
right,
It's good.
right. Now I have to say that I really really like Hellraiser 1 and 2. Um, but I have to say that if when it comes down to it, I probably have to say my favorite is Hellbound Hellraiser 2. Um,
Uh-huh.
just like Hellraiser 1 is so good, and I'm not dissing it in any way. It's
Uh-huh.
really really good. I just kind of I think lean towards the second one just because of where the story goes.
Uh-huh.
The continuation. It's a part one, part two, and
Yeah.
I always liked movies like that were a part one, part two. And Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth is really really good too. And I know some people diss Bloodline, but I'm one of the people that think that's a really underrated horror sequel.
I
Um,
like Bloodline was the space one and the Back in Time one, wasn't it? With
yeah,
the Marshall, the toy maker. I like that one very much. I haven't seen Beyond 4, so I can't comment on all those. But I think they're both very different films. But I love the fact that Hellraiser 2 kind of starts where Hellraiser 1 has finished with Kirsty running away from the house. So it really is part 1, part 2. And again, it's quite rare. It doesn't happen often, especially in horror. Well, you couldn't really with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Most of the cast are destroyed, aren't they? So.
exactly. And I also like that just they went inside the box. Like that I never would have thought in a million years like that's where the storyline would go with
Uh-huh.
the second one, and the fact that they dug deeper into the mythology behind the box and what the box actually is, and
Uh-huh.
the whole portal leading into hell, and um, the doctor, uh, the you know was so great, and also going digging deeper. I mean, the first one really introduced you to Pinhead and the rest of the Cenobites, and then seeing like the backstory on Pinhead,
Yeah.
and further like going into what is actually going on here. I just
Yeah.
thought it was so cool.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, the Cenobites and that whole part of the story was very small in Hellraiser 1. It was more the human beings and what was happening there, and then some of that was from a budget point of view, I think, as well. Whereas with a bigger budget on Hellraiser 2, they could expand all of that, and they could, something that had really just touched on. Suddenly, they could completely, they had lots of room to explore it. Um, and of course, they had a new writer, but Pete Atkins was a good friend of Clive, and had been around and worked with the dog company. He was also part of the dog company, so he understood Clive and Clive's visions when he did the screenplay for Hellraiser 2. And then we had Tony Randall, of course, directing it, who I didn't know at the time. he had to learn the 4 Cenobites peccadillos and what we couldn't do. How limited we actually were most of the time. and of course, a lovely Imogen Borman, bringing her in, and Ken Cranham. Imogen was playing the girl, the blonde-haired girl,
right?
And Ken Cranham played the Doctor. But recently, I've done a film with Ken, and I'm working with him again in a couple of weeks' time. End of May, on another project. So he's doing very well for himself. A very, very established actor here in the UK, Ken Cranham.
Awesome.
So
that's another person I have to get on the show.
Yeah, and Claire, you need to get Claire on. She's fabulous.
Yeah, I have to get Claire. I've actually sent a few messages to her publicist, but they've kind of said that she doesn't do that type of thing. So I'm hoping that once I kind of build up my repertoire, now that I have Nick, I have you on the show, I'm going to get Barbie. I'm hoping to get Sean Chapman at a future point. So I feel like now that I'm starting to get like the actual cast, that might be looking a little more likely down the road to get Claire and Sean on the show as well.
Claire was in Ready Player One. I went to see it and I went, oh, there's Claire. And then at the end there's Claire. And I'm sure Spielberg put her in deliberately because of her association, because they've got the whole kind of Shining thing and the whole. Have you seen Ready Player One?
I actually have not seen it yet. And I know that's bad because it's like the whole representation of the 80s.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. It's like a trip down memory lane for anybody who can remember the 80s. And the fact that she's in there is like nothing is in there by accident. And the fact that Claire's in there is very deliberate, even though Hellraiser's not kind of referenced. It was lovely to see. I loved it. I loved all the 80s references. It's one of those films I'd like to see again, just to kind of see all the bits I missed. But yeah, very, very enjoyable. And she also did The Dark Mysteries, the Golden Compass film. She was in that. And she's done loads. I mean, she's done lots of theatre over here. She's very, very revered. As kind of Lady Macbeth and Cleopatra. She's done everything in our national theatre. Yeah, she did Golden Compass. She's also done Doctor Who. She's been in quite a few of those episodes. So yeah, she keeps popping up everywhere, as does Ken Cranham. Yeah, Ken did what was the film? Angelina Jolie directed it. Not Magnificent, Maleficent. He was in that, Maleficent.
Right. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I think they're actually working on a sequel to that one.
Oh, that would be good. Yeah, no, I like that. It was again, interesting imagery. I love it when crews and special effects and designers are kind of given this freedom to just create amazing worlds. I've got another friend, a friend of my niece's fiance works in the film industry, and he's currently doing the reshoots on the next Harry Potter film. What they called?
Oh, Fantastic Beasts and
Fantastic Beasts.
Where to Find Them.
He does specialist props on films, so he's done all the Bond films and a lot of the Marvel films. But he said they've got 3 months of reshoots on Fantastic Beasts. 3 months.
What?
That's ridiculous. Most films are made in 3 months.
Right.
So to spend that amount of money and time, he said he can't believe the money they spent on it. But, they can afford it. It brings them vast amounts of profit, so it's worth them getting it right. And of course, I suppose with a series like that, if you get one wrong, you lose your audience. They don't come back. You need to keep upping the ante, don't you, and upping the expectations for the next one. So it really is worth getting it right, but that's a lot of money. For 3 months, and they've had to build all the sets again and all the props again and light it exactly the same. It's a different world.
Well,
yeah.
I Well, Hellraiser are some of my top favorite Clive Barker movies. Um, I have to really say that like Nightbreed is up there too. Um,
Uh,
in fact, I'd have to say like my top three favorite Clive Barker movies would be Hellraiser 1 and 2, Nightbreed, and then I'll even throw Lord of Illusions in there. Candyman I really like a lot, but that movie terrifies me. um,
have you
yeah,
have you met Tony Todd?
I have met Tony Todd. Yeah, several times. He's a really nice guy.
He is, but you could see why he is terrifying. He's a giant of a man.
Right, right.
He's a beautiful man, but yeah, he's scary.
Well, I'm actually pretty tall myself, so
Right.
I think we match each other's height, or I might actually be like a few inches taller than him. I'm not 100% sure, but we were definitely at eye level.
No, I was Hellraiser. I mean, Nightbreed was supposed to be this amazing fantasy, slightly horror-based film that was really going to put fantasy films on the map to the same level as science fiction and the same as Star Wars was doing for science fiction. So the studios, Morgan Creek had vast expectations for this, and it had a big budget for the time. We had some of the really big sound stages at Pinewood. We had the amazing David Cronenberg working in the cast, who we all kind of were in awe of at the time. Still are. So yeah, it was. There were huge expectations for the film, and sadly, it didn't quite fulfill its potential at the time. Although now with the new director's cut, I think it's as close as it's ever going to be to Clive's original vision. When the book came out, when I got the role and I kind of read Cabal, and I thought, wow, this is a beautiful, beautiful story. And then the script came, and the script was just so good. It was devastatingly sad, incredibly moving, but exciting. It was just the most beautiful script I've probably, even to this day, I've ever read. It was just lovely. So just from that, there was this buzz around it. But sadly, what happened during the filming of that was the executive producer was changed, and the original one from the studios in LA had completely understood Clive's vision of this city of creatures hiding from the world, but living very peacefully, and their whole world being torn apart by being discovered by the humans who persecuted them for being different. So in a lot of ways it's the Holocaust story told in a different manner, which again makes it poignant and moving. But the new executive producer didn't get that at all. He said, "Oh, what is this? This is a Clive Barker film. It's a slasher film. It's you can't have the baddies, the monsters as the goodies of the film. The monsters have to be the baddies of the film." And so the whole premise was so misunderstood, and he sacked Clive's editor that he'd used on Hellraiser 1 and 2 and sent him back to London, brought his own editor in, forced Clive to reshoot scenes to make it more violent, and had it edited so that you didn't really empathise with Boone, the hero of the story, because he was going to end up being a monster. And what happened was the end edit was a bit of a mess. It wasn't coherent. You didn't really like the lead characters because you'd had no time for them to be established, and because of that, you didn't go with their story. You didn't follow them through the storyline and in the way that Clive had intended. Now that it's been re-edited for the director's cut, and you spends far more time with Laurie and Boone. You get to know them at the beginning of the story. You get to like them, and because you like them, you go with them on this spiral of exotic wonderment that Clive created. So it took, I think, it's taken 25 years for the film to finally find its proper feet, the way that we all were hoping it would. And the other thing, of course, was that Nightbreed was way, like most of Clive's stuff, was way ahead of its time. The scenes at the beginning of the opening scenes, bearing in mind this was the 1990s, everything was shot on Steadicam. So everything was very smooth and very controlled, and you might pan in and you might pan out, but if the camera was going to move, it was on a lovely dolly and it was really smooth. And the opening sequence of Nightbreed is these creatures kind of dancing around, and the camera is going all over the place. These days we are so used to that. But Clive was one of the very first people to actually use it, and certainly one of the first people to use it in a movie. But I remember watching it in the cinema thinking, why have they kept that shot in? Is the cameraman drunk? What is he doing? Because it just looked so weird. I mean, it was perfect. Absolutely perfect for what he was trying to achieve. And another thing which took me a while to realise Clive was doing was the scenes where it was on the verge of Midian, so in the graveyard. It looked slightly unreal. It looked slightly like a kind of painted matte painting. And I remember thinking, and the lighting was slightly unreal, like it was in a studio. And I remember thinking, oh, that's a shame that they haven't kind of blended that in. But of course, and it took me ages to realise that the reason they hadn't done that is because it's deliberate. It's deliberate to show the difference between the real world and this fantasy, amazing, creative world of these monsters that live underground. And it was all very much deliberate. But at the time, it looked a little bit like a mistake, or just like kind of rather bad filmmaking, which I knew it wasn't, because the guys who worked on it were really, really superb filmmakers, directors of photography and cinematographers. It's very daring. Clive's always kind of pushed the boundaries, like any true artist should. And again, I think it's why one of the reasons he's so successful is and so remembered and has lasted so long in people's minds and imaginations, is that he doesn't go to the obvious places. He uses cliches. We all use cliches. It's impossible not to use cliches. But he's not frightened of exploring new grounds, new avenues, new ways of doing things, and that is what keeps it all fresh for us all. I'll stop speaking now.
No, that was perfect. That was perfect. I like you basically just explained everything essentially that I had questions about with the movie, and I like that was perfect. But it was so perfect that we are actually like right on about where I'd like to end the interview.
Cool.
But I have two more questions for you. You kind of already answered the one briefly, but I'll ask it anyways. The first one is, what are some of your favorite films in general? Doesn't have to be horror, in general. And if you had any upcoming projects to promote.
I'm a great lover of sci-fi, so anything to do with sci-fi, and especially kind of dark sci-fi, so Aliens, that whole franchise, I adored all of them. I tried when we were doing Nightbreed, they were doing, I think, Aliens 2 or 3, I can't remember, 3 I think, when they were on a planet and everybody had shaved heads.
Number 3, yeah. Number 3.
They were just casting that, and they were about to start filming at a time when, of course, I had a shaved head, so I was desperate to get seen, but I couldn't even get seen for that. So, yeah, I'm a great lover of sci-fi and of fantasy. I love escapism. In the same manner, I like a good drama. I love a good costume drama. Anything with a great story, I think, and that's is unusual and different and changes and that makes you think. I'm not always in tune with some of the art house films. Some of them I love, and maybe that's just because I'm a bit common. But I did go see a great Russian. We've got a wonderful. I moved house recently, and we've got a wonderful art house cinema nearby that has. They show fabulous films. They're very revered, and then afterwards there's you can go and you go to the bar and everybody sits and talks about it. I thought, oh, that sounds like a really good idea. I'd love to get involved with that. And it's kind of organised by the British Film Institute, so it's all kind of very highbrow. And we went along to the first one, and it was I can't remember the name of it. It was a Russian film about a family falling. The parents were getting divorced. Neither of them really wanted their 11-year-old child. I think it was called Loveless. I'm sure it was. And they didn't quite know what to do with him. And it starts with them having this argument in their house. He's saying, you know, what are we going to do? And she's saying, oh, I don't want him. And they kind of plan out this poor kid's future that because they're going to separate, they'll send him to boarding school and from there he go to the army and then, you know, they'll both be, you know, they get on with their lives. And there's a devastating scene where, in the middle of this argument, the wife goes into the lounge to get a glass of wine and comes back, and as she closes the door, behind the door is this poor kid just bawling his eyes out. It's the most devastating scene. And the next day the child goes missing, and it's the most bleak, soulless, beautifully crafted, but oh my god, film. But at the end of it, I thought, I can't spend another moment in this cinema. I need to get out and breathe. And so that as we were going out there saying, if you'd like to stay, I went, no, thank you. No, thank you. If you'd like to stay for the talk. No, I need to get out of here. Which was a great shame because on the way home, we did nothing but talk about the film the whole of the way home. It stuck with you, but it was so bleak. It was so bleak. Currently I'm working on a TV series. I think it'll end up being a TV series called Dark Ditties. I'm in all 6 episodes, and the first episode, each episode is a completely different story, but I play a completely different character in each episode. So, although in episodes 1 and 2 I do play the same character, as well as the second one in episode 2. The first one was called The Offer, and that was with the Hellraiser reunion because it had Barbie Wilde was in it and Nick Vince was in it. Oliver Smith, who played the skinned Frank, he was in it. Ken Cranham was in it. He was the Doctor in Hellraiser 2. I think that was all of us. Yes, that was all of us. And then part 2 was called Mrs. Wiltshire. We finished that about a month ago. And I played 2 characters in that. I played a banker in the first one and the second one called Jonathan Brooke Davis. He was an investment banker in the first one, and the second one is a prequel to the first one. He plays an estate agent, a real estate agent, kind of on the way up. And I also play another role, a much bigger role in episode 2, but I can't talk about that one at the moment. There's debates going on with the film company about how much we reveal. And I think they're going to have some test screenings to work out what to reveal, which is but I'm very excited about episode 2. Very, very excited. It was great fun, and I haven't wept so much in a long time. And it's scary too. It's kind of horror. It's a ghost story. And part 3 we're filming in a few weeks' time, and I play a banker, an accountant called Mr. Wainwright, who's on the run from the mob. And it starts with him throwing himself out of a moving car because he realises he's in it with 2 assassins, and then all sorts of awful things happen to him. So yeah, and then episode 4, I play a manager of a rock band, an old rock band that are getting together. And I probably can't say too much about that. Episode 5 and 6, I have no idea what I'm playing in those ones, but so yeah, it's keeping me busy and it's very exciting. And the series is called Dark Ditties, and I'm hoping I have great hopes for it that it'll do really well. It's got a lovely cast of people, and it's really nice working with the same crew and the same actors, but all of us playing different roles on each one. So yeah, exciting. And Texas, of course, next Thursday, so that will be the 3rd of May. I'm over to Texas for Texas Frightmare Weekend, which I'm really looking forward to. It's the first time I've been to that area of the country. So that'll be good, and see Barbie and Nick and Doug again. And Doug, of course, lives in your area.
Yeah, I actually
he's
should say this real quick. I'm sure you've talked to Doug about his recent portrayal of Pinhead again, and I actually know the makeup effects company and the artists that did the effects to get him in the Hellraiser makeup, and I actually interviewed the guy who owns the company. His name is Steve Tolan, and
all right,
yeah, and the company is Tolan Effects. Shout out to Tolan Effects and Steve Tolan. But yeah, there's actually a guy who works with Steve. His name is I'm sorry, I'm blanking on it, but he's a huge Hellraiser fan. So and he's Steve Tolan's right hand man. I want to say his name is Ken, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm blanking on it. I'm sorry if you're listening to this. I know. I will get it right. But yeah, Steve Tolan, great guy. He knows what he's doing, and awesome shop.
I heard really, really good things about that. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it all done up like that again. There was kind of, people have asked whether the four of us would do it, but I don't think anybody would ever be able to afford the four of us together in the same picture.
Right.
That's probably a no. But yeah, Doug moved to Pittsburgh a while back, and my brother lived there too, in Sewickley. Sewickley?
Yes,
an area where all the footballers live, evidently.
Right.
It was lovely over there. Yeah, I've been to Pittsburgh. It's a good city, really good city. Up on your vernacular railway and stuff.
Pittsburgh's great. I really like it a lot. You know, it has a lot to offer. It has a huge horror community. I mean, we're most famous for the zombies with George Romero, and I'm actually proud to say that I have George Romero's desk.
Oh wow! Has he got little etchings on it and things? You know, kind of bits that he's etched out with a knife somewhere. Probably not. Knowing George, he was the nicest, gentlest man.
He was. I actually had a chance to meet him right before he passed away. Kyle Roberts. That is the person's name. I'm sorry, okay, Kyle, if you're listening to this. When you listen to this, I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name. Kyle Roberts, everyone. Huge Hellraiser fan, and is Steve Tolan's right-hand man. But
George Romero used to throw amazing parties at the conventions, and he paid for them all, and it's left a huge gap. I mean, he's left a huge gap anyway. But he was such a generous man, and such a gentleman. The most unlikely, a bit like David Cronenberg, really, the most unlikely person to make horror films in a lot of ways, and that was kind of very gentle and kind of thoughtful and but inspiring too.
Absolutely. I had a chance just to tell him right before he passed, like a few months before he passed, that I was just, a huge fan and just how much he inspired me. And I mean, I'd have to say probably my all-time favorite George Romero movie would be the first Creepshow.
Uh-huh.
I just there's something about anthology horror movies that
Uh-huh.
I really really like a lot. You know, it's like you pay for one movie, but you get to see like three or four,
Uh-huh.
possibly even
That,
5 movies in one.
that's kind of one of the ideas that I'm pitching with this Dark Ditches series. That I'm pitching that they do with these is that they have because they're about an hour long, about 50 minutes long, but they have them as double features. They bring back double features because the cinema audience get to see 2 films for the price of one. The cinema gets to have an extra interval where everybody comes out and buys more overpriced popcorn. It's kind of win-win situation, and I think it's something that hasn't been done for a long, long time, and I think it's well worth bringing back. I completely agree. I love that kind of, and because these ones that we're filming in the moment, they're completely different stories, and they come from completely different angles. I think it would work really well. I just we need to find the right people to approach to pitch this to when we've got the 6 films finished.
I can't wait to check those out. That when you were describing them, like that sounds like anthology stuff. Like that's always been like the coolest type of horror movie to me. Just the anthology movies.
Yeah. I'm going to do a lot of work to try and get that to happen. I think it would be much better to see these in the cinema rather than see them on a television. So yeah. But as soon as we know more, then I will let you know.
Awesome. Well, Simon, thank you so much for swimming in the bowl with me. I'm sorry it wasn't gin filled.
That's right. I've been topping it up with my own wine while we've been chatting, so that's okay.
Awesome. Well, I would love to have you back on the show anytime. I'll be honest, I'm a little. I have like a backlog of episodes. At this point, I'm gonna try and get this interview out a little bit sooner than the others if I can. But as soon as it's posted, I will send you a link, and we can talk about the next time I can have you come swim in the bowl.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
See you.
And sorry about last time.
Oh, no worries. No worries. Awesome.
Cheers, Sam.
See ya. Bye.
Okay. Bye.